Kenyans' voter turnout is in questions as many are not sure if they will turn out to vote for various reasons.
Kwa majina naitwa Kevin Yegambi. Mimi ni mmoja wa supporter mkubwa sana wa Kenya Kwanza. Tarehe 9 niko ready kupigia William Samoei Ruto kura.
Will the gender inequality gap in pay close or continue to increase? President Trump in more trouble over his lack of transparency on the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot while his tax returns mystery continues. Why is it that our children and young adults are getting involved in drugs? We speak to a counseling psychologist later on in our segment and a young man who has turned away from his past. Hello and good evening. Welcome to DW News on this 22nd day of April 2022. It's 9 p.m. My name is Doris Soidera. Independent and Electoral Boundaries Commission IEBC is facing more challenges as majority of youths in Kenya are not sure whether they will turn out and vote in this coming general election. Our correspondent on the ground has more on this story.
When it comes to elections, Kenyans are blaming the cost of living on politicians for being self-centered and not considering the common citizen. For some time, Kenyans have been having hard conversations surrounding the increase in food prices, cost of living, and matters affecting youths like unemployment. This as we near the August general elections and promises from the politicians fill the Kenyan air. The latest case that found Kenyans was the lack of fuel and increase in the fuel prices that saw them line up hours unending in search of a petrol station with fuel. I went to the streets of Nairobi to find out the opinions of Kenyans when it comes to voting, and this is what they had to say.
Kivyangu mimi nina kura lakini sita vote. Sababu yangu ya kutovote ni kwamba wale watu ambao tunachagua sio wale watu wanaoingia.
Kwa majina naitwa Kevin Yegambi. Mimi ni mmoja wa supporter mkubwa sana wa Kenya Kwanza. Tarehe 9 niko ready kupigia William Samoei Ruto kura. Ni mcha Mungu, ni mtu amejitolea kusimama na wanyonge, anatetea wanyonge hapa Kenya.
Mimi kwa maoni yangu hiyo ni ya kupiga kura nitajitokelezea sana tena sana. Nikienda kuwakucha hii chama inaitwa Azimio. Mimi ni wa UDA. Yule mtu unaona anaweza tusaidia ni hasara mwenzetu. Ni huyu His Excellency William Samoei Ruto. Huyo ndio naona kama anaweza tatua mashida zetu. Lakini hii ingine wanasema hii ni dynasty wote. Sasa ndio na mimi nakalia pale na nitameki sure mimi na familia yangu yote na wale tuko nao hapa tutachagua UDA na itapita na tunajua hivyo.
It is clear that despite some of the tough conditions some Kenyans are facing, they will still turn out to vote, but some are of a different opinion. I encourage you all who are watching to turn out and vote. Sophia Macau, reporting for DW News. Back to you at studio.
We are joined by Pastor Dennis Crispus Barasa, who will shed more light on this story all the way from Jubilee Christian Church, Parklands. Good to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much, Doris. I'm Dennis Crispus Barasa, who is privileged to be a pastor by calling and a lover of this nation with an interest in political affairs. Thank you.
Kindly share with us your voter turnout projections for the 2022 general elections.
Going by the look of events and from the previous voter turnouts, I will give it 65%, just to be on the higher side.
According to research, it has been observed that where there is a higher number of elderly people voting, not only in Kenya but across the world, also the number of youths voting is higher and vice versa. What's your take on this? when given that the majority of Kenyans are youths?
Well, again, like I've said, given the previous elections, we've always witnessed a high turnout in the elderly age group as opposed to the youth. But maybe because of now the sensitivity and the nature of the politics that we have right now, people are desperate for change. People are hungry for change. Maybe this time around, we may as well see a shift, or maybe a 50-50, where the youth and the elderly are concerned.
So what will encourage voters in this coming general election to vote, seeing that the same leaders who have been vying for these positions are still the same leaders vying for the same positions? What's your take on this?
You see, we have to look at the history of our elections and the voting patterns. We are people that are moved by what I would say euphoria, right? As much as in we vote people in and then later on complain about the same people we have voted in. I believe that one of the motivation this time is because people need change. And I believe that people are coming out this time round not necessarily to vote for the same people. Most likely you are going to witness a scenario where some of the people, some of the big names that we've had for a long time are going to be voted out because the young people have now risen, all right? There is a cry for a revolution where people want change. And I believe it's that change that is the greater motivating factor to the young people to come out in large numbers, to vote and stamp their authority and their voice to be heard. That, hey, listen, we've been ignored for a long time, but this time round, we want you to know that the youth can actually bring about a revolution and change in a nation.
So our correspondent went to the street, and this is what people in the streets had to say. So what's your take on this?
Again, my advice would be to the young people and to every other person who has registered and has a voter card. Refusing to vote is actually not going to help. Why? Because you see, when you don't vote, you are giving that person, that leader who does not deserve to ascend to power, to actually ascend to power. Someone said the greatest evil is for people not to vote, not to exercise their elective rights, and allow people that shouldn't be in a position of power to ascend to power. So I will urge us as Kenyans, I will urge us as the young people, let's go out in large numbers, let's vote out. I believe the people that are coming to campaign, to contest for this elective policy, are people that we know. We know their character. Some of them, you can attest to their character, or some you can know, this one I can't vote for. So when you don't come out and vote and exercise your rights as a citizen, you're actually empowering these people who don't have any leadership qualities to ascend to power. So come out in large numbers. I know we've been disappointed in the past, but we can't use our past to inform our decisions for now. So let's come out in large numbers. Let's vote for the right people. Let's bring change that will push this nation, that will push Kenya into a trajectory that will redefine our politics as a people. That yes, it's a time now for Kenya for us to elect the right people, not because of the money, but because of who they are, the values they stand for, the policies they sell. I believe Kenyans, you are listening to me. Once again, I urge you, please don't stay at home. Come out, let's go and vote. Vote out those leaders that don't really qualify to be called leaders, and let's vote in the right people.
The US women's soccer team will now be paid equally after they won the 2019 lawsuit that they filed on equal pay. They will be paid equally as men on tournaments, friendlies, and the World Cup. Our reporter set out to find out what women and men in Kenya think on equal pay.
The Equal Pay Act requires that men and women in the same workplace be given equal pay for equal work. The jobs need not to be identical, but they must be substantially equal. Job content, not job titles, determines whether jobs are substantially equal. Here's what some Kenyans had to say about the same.
Some years back, the men were being paid more than the ladies. But right now, things are changing. Ladies are earning more. And even if you look like most of the cars, women are driving, women are doing really well. Most companies are now being headed by women. So for me, it's girl power all the way. And maybe it's a good thing. We challenge the men. Yeah, because right now you find a company being headed by a woman, and the woman is the MD, and the assistant MD is a man. So when it comes to equal pay, my opinion, girl power all the way.
I'll go with, I think a man should be paid higher. Because, one, I think I'll base it on the biblical part of life. The man is the head of the family, and he is given the dominion to rule over now the whole family, all the kids, the wife, they flow. Now, he has all the responsibility to provide, because he was given the responsibility to provide provision in school fees, food, shelter, and everything. So I think the man should always be paid the high.
Equal pay looks like a conversation that will flow into the future, and I hope that one day, soon, a solution will be found. For DWTV, my name is Amy Gishiel.
I believe that this is a story for the long run. And now to our international top story. President Trump is in more trouble. This even as accusations continue being leveled against him concerning the January 6th Capitol riots. And this is in addition to what we observed in America, demonstrations of thousands and thousands of people accusing him of not filing his tax returns. Sophia Macau has more on this story.
And I just saw that Nancy Pelosi, just before our meeting, made a statement that we believe that the President of the United States is engaged in a cover-up. Well, it turns out I'm the most, and I think most of you would agree to this, I'm the most transparent president probably in the history of this country.
Donald Trump stunned the political world in 2016 when he became the first person without government or military experience ever to be elected president of the United States. His 4-year tenure in the White House revealed extraordinary features in the American society, but left little doubt that he is a figure unlike any other in the nation's history. Even with demonstrations asking him to reveal his taxes, the former president claimed that he was the most transparent president in the nation's history. In addition, the troubles of the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot is still following him even as he pushes forward with the hopes of running for another presidential race. On the said day, a mob of 2,000 of his supporters attacked the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., where they sought to overturn his defeat in the 2020 presidential election. They sought to disrupt the joint session of Congress assembled to count electoral votes that would formalize President-elect Joe Biden's victory. This act was condemned by leaders across America, including some of the president's friends, and will forever be remembered in the nation's history as a day many would not like to remember. I am Sophia Macau. Back to you in studio.
Coming up, we sit down with a counseling psychologist to find out why so many of our young children and young adults are addicted to drugs.
Kwa majina naitwa James Nzuki Ndambuki. Nimezaliwa place ambayo ni Mombasa, Mariakani. Huko ndo nimegrow. Nilipofikisha 20 years ndo nilikuja Nairobi. Hiyo ni mwaka ya 2020 November tarehe 16. Ndo niliingia Nairobi. Niliingia mtambo hiyo inaitwa Kibera. Nilikutana na timu huko ya Soul Good ambao walikuwa wakipenda mambo na church sana. Sasa ndo nikajoin nao polepole kwa mambo na church. But kabla nikuje huko nikiwa Mombasa 2016 nilijoin Bite Company, yani nilikuwa nikitumia madrugs. Nilikuwa nikivuta bangi, nikichonga mguka, nikitumia ni vitu zingi sana, ni kunywa pombe, vitu kama hizo. But nilipokuja huko nilipatana na company poa sana. Company unajua ambao company pia nayoga inasaidia katika maisha. So nilikutana nao vijana wakanileta church, tukajoin church JCC hapo Parklands side ya Ngara. Nilipojoin hiyo church tukaanza kuserve. Katika maisha yangu hatakuwa sijui maana ya kuserve nini, but nilijulia tu huko katika hii church maana ya kuserve God ndo nini venye namaanisha. Nilipoanza step ya kuja church nilikuwa bado nikivuta bangi, nikichonga vitu kama hizo. Nikiwa tu nilikuwa nikitoka church every Sunday lazima nitumie hizo drugs. Alikuwa nimezoea, but nilipoingia church nikapata mentorship kiasi. Ndio nikaanza kusoma hizi vitu kulani polepole. But drugs niliviacha, sikuacha it at once. Polepole tu hizo vitu kuacha. But hizi vitu aga ukiwa idol kuvitumia ni sana lazima utazitumia, lakini ukijikeep busy utakuwa hauzitumii sana.
Thank you so much, Pastor Victoria, for joining our news bulletin this evening. It's our honor to be interviewing you concerning the issues that are affecting our nation, and especially when it comes to our young adults dealing with drugs. So we would like you to help us understand why children as young as 10 years are turning into drugs, yet these sometime back it would be a rare case to hear a young child turning into drugs. So feel free and welcome to share with us.
Thank you so much, Doris. I'm privileged to be here. First, I really think what informs us is very important. Actually, the first 5 years of our lives, and we are informed. Many things inform us. For example, the environment where our kids are growing up in. So you find what they see everybody else doing, the parents doing, the neighbors doing, the relatives doing, really shapes the future of our children. And even the Bible says that wisdom, the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. So like if you're a child at the early ages, like Sunday school where they are taught morals, because now we gain our values also from our values really shape the decisions we make. So most of the people get their values religiously. You find at the young age, if you can really let your child know the values in life, Christian values especially, and I know there are so many religions all over the world, and you see every religion has a value. So if we can really make our children, inform our children with the right information, it will help our children to place down their values. So if you have good values, it helps you choose wise. If you have bad values, it helps you choose wrong. So you find initially those early years, religion was paramount, teachings were paramount, and that is what really I think really shaped us a lot. and you find that the cases of drugs were not so much. But as we continued and evolved and went on, you find like maybe it's your own choice if you want. Those early days, our parents used to force us to go to church. Like church was, it was a must. But nowadays you find like children are given options. If you want to come to church, you can remain and watch the TV. Instead, like I started saying, that what informs you, it's also what is going to make you best. It is what is also going to inform what you base your values on. You see, so you're leaving your kids with the television. They're informed with people drinking, informed with very, very funny things. So when they grow up, they have really no values to help them make good decisions. So I think our environment really, really shapes that. Number two, the traumas that our kids are going through nowadays. You find there are a lot of things that are happening in our marriages. Family really matters. Family really matters. Actually, the first place that God started humanity was in a family. Adam, Eve, and all that. So you find that the devil really attacks families nowadays. Kids are being raised with single parents, and like you've seen, most men are really affected with the drug issues because a man was supposed to show the kids who God really is. Because even in the Garden of Eden, you find that God created Adam and fellowship with Adam. Then later on is when the wife came. So Adam really knew God, knew the nature of God. And so men are supposed to be there to show women and show kids how God really behaves. And so you find these kids, when they come, the man that they see is in drugs, either smoking or drinking or maybe beating the wife. So you find these traumatizing environments, the kids are desperate and they want something that can really cool their pain. So they end up doing it in drugs. But you know, drugs is temporal. So I think that is what has majorly affected our generation. The information they get from the environment, from the parents, and all that. So that there is no value that is able to cushion us from now the influence of drugs. And then of course peer pressure. But if you have right values when you're young, it can also protect you from peer pressure.
I've interviewed a young man, his name is James, and he was sharing with us that the reason why he went into drugs was because of peer pressure, and the other one was because of the environment he grew up in. He was brought up by a single mom, and then when he observed like what she was going through, it was hard on him. Like he didn't have solutions to her case, so he saw like drugs were giving him a good, like that good feeling, like he's able to forget that. So that was one of the reasons that he turned into drugs. So what do you think about that?
Yes, he's right, because you remember I told you the trauma. When maybe the parents are fighting, or maybe like you were saying, the young man said he saw what the mom was going through. The initial perfect tool of God is for kids to be born in a family where there is a father and a mother. The father mainly supposed to provide for the family, protect the family, and even listen to what God is saying concerning the family. Because without God, we cannot do anything. In God we live, we move, and have our being. And that's why you remember what I told you about Adam. Adam saw God, related with God, and he was the one who was supposed to show the woman and the child who God really is. You see? So, like majorly single parenthood, especially when it's a woman alone, and worse if it's a man, because there is a way boys empathize with their mothers. And it really gets, because the boys have the leadership thing in them. And they are so desperate as a leader, and you're still young, the desperation of wanting to help the mom as a boy really gets into them. And so because he's young, he can't do it, and then the trauma is traumatized. Now the pain takes him to drugs. But I think the solution is like in those such places, like those areas that are slums, and even churches, those people should not go to drugs. They should come to churches where they'll be counseled, where they'll be given hope. The Bible says Christ in us, our hope of glory. So they can be taught they can be cancelled, even they can look for homes where they can take such people to rescue them.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that.
And the peer pressure part is like the value part, where if this child maybe went to church, was taught about values, and then he got information, the right information for him to base his values on. So peer pressure, his values would have cushioned him from the peer pressure.
Okay. And okay, you've touched about slums. You see some of the people in slums, they don't understand so much about religion. Maybe the mom and like the generation they are coming from, they don't understand that. But it's the environment that they are living in that is shaping what they are going through. So do you think, like, instead of us inviting them to church, we should like take the church to them? What are your opinions?
Perfect. The church should go to them. And that's why the Bible says we are the salt of the world. Salt preserves. Okay? So a generation that is degenerating, we are the people who are able to preserve them. Christ in us, our hope of glory. So we go there, even we can form institutions like rehabs, where we can just teach them and teach them and teach them. So it's perfect. The church should really go out there to those slums, and not only to slums, even to schools. To schools, because I told you what informs us is what helps us also to base values that are going to protect us from peer pressure. So you find there are kids from rich families, but now nobody is able to force them, maybe let's go to church, or the parents maybe don't have that right information. So they are left with the television. We have social media. So our kids are informed with the social media, seeing people drinking, all those, smoking and all that. So even the church should not only go to the slums, but even to the homes, to schools, where we can find these kids and just transform them by giving them the right information. Like I hear there's a term in computer saying garbage in, garbage out. So if we give them the right information, their lives are going to change.
Okay, and lastly, what role do you think our Kenyan government can play to help reduce the drug cases in Kenya?
Information. Like use the media. We have news. We have all the media stations. They can use that and just start programs. We usually have programs where you see people dance, musical programs. Even when we were young, we used to have schools. They could have lessons. Class lessons that even right now we have, during the COVID season, we had class lessons. So the government should also bring such lessons. Especially media is a good tool. Social media also.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
God bless you.
You too. God bless you. I was happy and I'm grateful to be here.
Okay. So that's it from Jubilee Christian Church Parklands. We hope that you've gotten some solutions when it comes to drugs in Kenya. And thank you so much for your feedback on all our social media platforms. Let's go to Facebook. We have Vicky Wangari who says, I did not take a voter's card because I'm not interested in voting in these elections, because sijaona mtu yeyote naweza votia kwa hizi elections. Peter Okello is saying that UDA is a must, so I will turn out and vote in these coming elections. In fact, I'm going to camp so that I can make sure that my vote counts. And on our Twitter platform, we have Massimo Mbua is telling us that is saying, thank you so much for sharing that story on drugs. My child was addicted and now I understand what he was going through. Thank you so much for joining our newscast tonight. God bless you. I'll see you at the same place tonight.